To inspect and maintain the brake system on your Indian Scout, follow these steps. Park the motorcycle on a flat, level surface in the fully upright position. Note: motorcycle on lift for visual purposes. Then, position the handlebars so that the fluid reservoir is level. Wipe the fluid container and the area around the reservoir cover with a clean rag. A flashlight can be used to illuminate the reservoir in dark areas. If the fluid level is low, inspect the brake pads. If the pads are not worn beyond the service limit, inspect the brake system for leaks. To add fluid, remove the reservoir cover screws. Remove the cover, diaphragm plate, and diaphragm and set aside. The fluid level should be above the minimum indicator mark next to the sight glass. Add the recommended brake fluid as needed. Do not overfill. Brake fluid will damage painted surfaces and plastic parts. Always clean spilled brake fluid immediately with water and mild detergent. Reinstall the diaphragm plate, cover, and screws. If diaphragm is extended, return it to the neutral position. Torque the fasteners to specification. Before continuing, wipe away any fluid spills. Check for signs of brake fluid leaks around hoses, fittings, reservoir, and brake calipers. Check for deterioration of hoses. Next, lubricate the front brake lever by unscrewing the bottom nut and screw to access the hinge point. Then, remove the pivot pin and pull the brake lever out. Next, clean off any old grease or dirt from the pivot pin and brake lever. Then, lubricate the pivot pin and brake lever hinge point with all-purpose grease. Also, lubricate any time binding is evident. Continue by cleaning any old grease from the brake lever bracket and lubricate with all-purpose grease. Reinstall the brake lever and align the pinhole. Then, reinstall the pivot pin and torque to specification. Next, reinstall the nut and torque to specification. Before continuing, clean any residual grease off the bike and ensure proper operation of the brake lever. Then, follow the brake line and inspect the connections at the front brake caliper for leaks. Now, inspect each front brake pad on both sides of the front disc or discs, as some models may have more than one disc. When checking brake pad friction material thickness, check each brake caliper for dampness or stains from leaking or dried brake fluid. If inspection reveals signs of fluid leakage, do not operate the motorcycle. See your dealer for service. Next, position an inspection mirror at the back side of the caliper to view the friction material. Replace brake pads when the thinnest point of the friction material has worn to 1 mm. Please see your dealer for this service. Inspect the brake discs for nicks, scratches, cracks, or other damage. Inspect the thickness of each brake disc at 4 or more locations around the disc. If any disc is worn to the minimum thickness at the thinnest point, or if a disc is damaged, see your dealer for replacement. Clean discs if minor squeaks develop due to dirt or dust. Apply brake cleaner to a clean shop towel and wipe the disc. Repeat this process for the rear brake pads and discs. Do not allow the brake cleaner to contact painted or plastic parts. Make sure to read all precautions on the label. Next, move to the rear fluid reservoir near the rear brake pedal on the right side of the bike and check the level using the sight glass. The fluid level should be above the minimum indicator mark on the reservoir sight glass. If the fluid level is low, inspect the brake pads. If the pads are not worn beyond the service limit, inspect the brake system for leaks. Then, wipe the fluid container and the area around the reservoir cover with a clean shop rag. Now, remove the cover and diaphragm. Add the recommended brake fluid as needed. Do not overfill. Then, reinstall the cover and diaphragm and torque the cover screws to specification. If diaphragm is extended, return it to the neutral position. Finally, wipe away any fluid spills. Check for signs of brake fluid leaks around hoses, fittings, reservoir, and brake calipers. For more information, see your authorized Indian motorcycle dealer or visit indianmotorcycle.com.